Everybody else has their ring.
Well, hello, you guys. Do you guys know why you're in here?
No.
Good. I'm glad you guys are in the dark.
Is it because we're too noisy?
Not at all. Not at all. So, before we get started, raise your hand if you guys have ever heard of the Knowledge Society. Okay.
How'd you hear
I don't know, not a lot of it, but
Okay.
from what I know, it's a knowledge society. I was
Didn't they talk about it on the announcements one time last year?
They did, actually. Noel Hurst, the director, came and filmed a promotion video for the Knowledge Society last year. You were right, Riley. So we have members of the Knowledge Society here today to speak to you. Really listen carefully, because they're going to talk to you about some things you probably have never heard of before, maybe never seen before, but that might be very interesting to you, and you might even be interested in maybe even being a part of the Knowledge Society, right? Remember, you guys, be respectful, pay attention, sit up straight, listen, because it's going to be you up here talking, right? Don't be rude, but really have an open mind. Thank you. Because you might hear something today that might really open your eyes and your mind, something that you never even thought existed, okay?
Hello, my name is Gaby. I'm Gaby Floratos. I'm 18, even though I look like I'm 12, just like you guys. But I'm a senior at Palo Verde High School, and I'm a first-year member of the Knowledge Society. I've been in the program for about 4 months. So the best way I've ever heard the Knowledge Society described is a STEM-based human accelerator program. So have any of you ever heard of what a human accelerator program is? Can you make a guess? Like, does anyone have any guesses to what that means? What?
They take really smart people.
No, actually. It's different. What it would kind of mean is that we build really smart people. So another way that a TCAS has been described is as an Olympic level training program for innovative thinking. So what that would mean is, like, think of an Olympic level training program for something like swimming, right? So like what would you do in an Olympic level swimming program? Swim, right? But is that the only thing that you do? What else would you do? What else would you do?
Learn the different ways how to swim.
Okay. Would you learn about like your muscle systems, like your muscular working? You have to go to the gym a lot too, right? You have to eat right. You have to learn how to like feed your body. And I have to do really good things, right? You have to like mental strength, mental stamina, like how to keep yourself going after you like feel super exhausted, like your arms are fall off. So you have a lot of different facets that you have to grow. It's not just swimming. Something that's an Olympic level training program in innovative thinking is that if we want to build the next thought leaders and innovators of the next generation. So we're really trying to build leaders in industries that are going to disrupt and change the world. So in order to do that, we actually have to start at base level. Like, in order to be an Olympic level athlete, you have to be a healthy person. Your body has to be good, and like you have to know how to take care of it. It's the same if you're trying to build a better person. You have to know how to take care of your physical body and also your mental well-being. You learn things like philosophy and stoicism and just different ways where you can deal with any problem that life presents to throw at you. We learn about different issues that are happening in the world right now. So for example, one of the sessions that I thought was really cool is like a slide came up, and I'm going to ask you the question that my instructor asked us that day. If you guys had symptoms of like nausea, your skin was kind of yellow, you had a fever, you had a runny nose, you had a cough, and you had like diarrhea, what would you do? Call a doctor, right? So would you call a doctor, right? Okay, what if you don't have a phone?
Tell your parents.
Okay, what if your parents don't know what to do? What if your parents don't know what to do? Okay, what if there's no doctor? What if there's no hospital? Okay. So what if you have a broken leg, right? No one can do anything about that. Maybe you have an infection, right? What if there's no hospital near you? What if there's no 911 in your country? What if there is no doctor in your town? What if you don't have a phone? What if your phone isn't working? What do? You try your best. Maybe you put a Band-Aid on it. Take some Tylenol. Drink a little to make it feel better. Like, what are you doing? What if what you have is deadly? What do? You die. So in 2013, when an earthquake hit Haiti, and thousands of people were injured, sick, or stuck, and the nearest, not even hospital, but wellness center, was 2 full days of walking away, what do you think they did? Exactly. They're dead. They have a daughter, maybe they broke their leg. They're like 2-year-old daughters in their arms. She's infected, she's missing, she's sick, and they can't do anything. Maybe their family's trapped under a crushed building, and they don't have a 911 to call. And that's happening in our world today. In fact, that's the normal way that most people live. Do all of you guys have a toilet? Right? All you guys have a toothbrush? Did you know that you're an exception for most people in this world? A majority of people on this planet do not have toilets. You're real lucky for that. Do you know that? Did you know that? That more people didn't have toilets than did. Did you know that you're really lucky to have things like air conditioning, a house, good health? So that means that over 3.5 billion people on this planet right now have none of those things. So, what we learn in this knowledge society is those things. We learn what's happening in our world right now, and we learn ways to fix them. Things like personalized medicine, artificial intelligence, cellular agriculture, stem cell research. Those are all things that can impact billions of people. The thing that might impact the next billion of people might not be the next iPhone, but maybe it could be a pocket doctor that you can have in your hand, and like from anywhere in the world for a low cost, it can tell you what to do if that is happening to you right now. A way to contact help if you're stuck somewhere in a rural area and there's an issue. I know someone working in our program. There's a girl working right now with the UN to create VR doctors. So a doctor in America can look at a patient 3-dimensionally and diagnose and treat them from a completely other continent. Those are the types of things, and those are the type of problems that we tackle in the knowledge society. We build our empathy. We build our problem-solving skills, so we can become better people to tackle these issues that are affecting people every day. Do you know how many people in this world don't have clean water? They drink out of, the same things that, although they drink out of the same body of water that their waste goes. There'll be like animals and zebras drinking water next to them. The water is something that keeps them alive, but it's also the thing that makes them sick and gives them thousands and thousands of illnesses that causes billions of people to die. Early ages, birth defects, tumors that manipulate people's faces. Those are all things that we are building the tools to fix. And none of us have any background in technology or science. But our mission is to impact billions of people and really help the people of the world today. There's different things, so if you don't want to work in healthcare, you don't want to work in that. Personally, I was more interested in food. How do we feed people for the next however long we live? If we live longer, like as our medicine's getting better, as our infrastructure is getting better, we are living longer and longer and longer. How are we going to feed the world? People want to eat what they want to eat. The more money people get, the more they can choose things to eat, like meat. But if it's actually meat production, which you will learn pretty soon, meat's really bad for the environment. You can actually not make enough meat that can feed the rest of our world. Also, we don't have a lot of people that get the right nutrients when they eat food, right? So there are people not only are people in developing countries at a monetary disadvantage, but they never got enough food when they were little, so their brains have not properly developed. So not only do they have to live in poverty, but their bodies are malnourished and don't work correctly because they didn't have enough money. So how do you get people proper nutrition? So today we're going to hear fourth leaders. We're going to talk to you today about stem cells, which have the potential to, you guys know this disease, it's called cancer. You know it impacts a lot of people. How many people here know somebody that has had cancer? Right? A lot of people. A lot of people get cancer. We'll learn about how these things can treat them. Does anyone know people who are deaf? Right? With stem cells, you might be able to fix that too. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn over the mic to Roxy. She's going to tell you guys a lot about stem cells today.
Okay, so how many of you have gone to bed with a cold before, like a runny nose? Almost all. Wait, yeah, all. So how many of you woke up the next day and lost all your hearing? My dad did. My name's Roxy Jones, and I'm a 7th grader at the Hyde Park Middle School. I'm in their magnet program, and I started TKS this year. 2 to 3 years ago, my dad lost his hearing due to a virus. He contracted it, and overnight he lost 100% of his hearing in his left ear and 80% of it in his right ear. It was really hard at first because my sister and I both have music as a really big part of our lives, and he was really scared about how losing his hearing was going to affect how he could engage with his children. A year ago, in 2019 at the beginning, a stem cell company called USite, it's one of the leading stem cell companies in the world. It's over 20 years ahead of even the most advanced stem cell companies otherwise. Like in China, they pour billions of dollars into their biological network, and even USite is ahead of them. So they just recently moved here from Texas, and last year they began treating my dad with exosomal treatment, and his hearing got better. So this kind of like sparked my passion of stem cells. So after the first audiology test, a couple months after he started his treatments with stem cells, his hearing was 25% better. This was a huge milestone because some of the best doctors in the state told him that he could never hear better again. This led to a bunch of questions on my side. How could this even work? How is this possible? Especially after all of them told him that he'd never hear better again. So I started Googling, trying to find answers. What are stem cells? What are exosomes? I had no idea. I didn't know what I was looking for or how to find it though. When I joined TKS, however, I found the tools that I needed, and I had the ability to find the answers that I wanted. In August, when I entered 7th grade, I was just a normal kid. I wasn't really that smart. I had straight A's, and I learned what was in class, and I kind of barfed it all out on tests. Couldn't remember a thing 3 days later. TKS started in September, and after that my entire life changed because I finally understood how things work. Why should we care? And some of the most breaking edge technologies that are going to make the world a better place. So as I began researching about stem cells, I had to learn the basics first. And the basics are that stem cells are basically cells that can change into any type of cell you want them to. So they can change into specialized cells like heart cells, lung cells, blood cells, or they can also differentiate into more stem cells. We have the most stem cells when we're born, and as we grow older, we have less and less. And that's one of the main reasons why we age, is because of the lack of stem cells. There are 4 major types of stem cells. These are embryonic, adult-induced pluripotent, and mesenchymal. Embryonic stem cells come from an embryo, but the thing is, when we harvest them, it kills the embryo. So there's a bunch of ethical concerns because that embryo can never become a fetus or a human. Adult stem cells are stem cells that we have after development. So these are the stem cells that your parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, those kinds of people, these are the kinds of stem cells that they have. Induced pluripotent stem cells are really important because they were created in response to the embryonic stem cell ethical debate. Induced pluripotent stem cells are the ones that we can take an adult stem cell and we can, through genetic engineering, revert it back to its embryonic stage and use it as an embryonic stem cell. Lastly, we have mesenchymal stem cells, which are like the stromal stem cells, which can become bone, blood, cartilage, and fat. They all have different abilities, just like different characters in a video game have different superpowers. I don't know. So stem cells also control other cells. This is one of their primary functions. They do this through using exosomes, which are kind of like the mailing system of the cellular world. Exosomes are extremely small. They're 30 to 150 nanometers. That's 1,500 times smaller than the diameter of a string of hair. It's really small. And because they're so small, scientists thought that they could have no reason to actually exist until about 20 years ago. They thought that it was just cellular trash, which is really crazy because they play such a big role. So my dad is going through exosomal treatment, like I said. He was first given an IV of stem cells in January of 2019 through a needle in his wrist, and they traveled up to his ears eventually, so he was given 1 million stem cells. After that, he goes in every couple of weeks to get exosomes, and they come in like a little tube, and then the doctor administers it in different ways, like through the nose or through the ears. It depends on the time, and he gets 1 billion exosomes every other week. So I think that's it's mind-boggling to me because that's a lot of exosomes and stem cells, and they have the ability to now isolate all of them. An analogy that I like to use when I think about stem cells and exosomes is like a beehive. So you know how in a beehive there's the queen bee and they kind of like are in charge of everything? So that's kind of like what a stem cell is. Stem cells are kind of like the queen bee of the cellular hive. And the exosomes are the worker bees because the exosomes are the ones that go out and branch out and tell things what to do. For example, if your arm was broken, then there would be damaged and dead cells inside of your arm. So if you administered stem cells and exosomes, the stem cells would go in and be like, okay, so these exosomes go to these cells and tell them that they need to repair themselves or revive themselves in order to get this functioning again. And it can cut the time down by a lot. So these can help a lot with any type of genetic disease or even diseases that come later in life. If they relate to DNA or cells, then stem cells can one day solve it. I hope that one day my research and partnerships that I create could possibly help to solve genetic diseases and help people like my dad live happier, healthier lives. Thank you.
Technology smart. So hi everyone, I'm Elle and I'm 13. I go to Kennywood. I'm in their magic program. And my obsession with stem cells started when I was probably 7 or 8. So I recently had a dog that had passed away from cancer, and I've had a couple chickens that had passed away from viral infections. So of course, 7-year-old brain says, let's fix it all, some magic cure, which until recently I didn't think existed. And then I joined TCAS and I learned more and more about stem cells. Now stem cells in particular are really cool, but one type of stem cell actually fascinated me more than all the rest, and that's induced pluripotent stem cells. Because you have pluripotent stem cells, they can turn into every cell in your body except for the placenta. So they're really important for actually regulating how you grow and regulating just your bodily functions in general. So, how we make induced stem cells is we have what are called Yamanaka factors. Now, I need to talk about Yamanaka for a minute because honestly, he's one of the coolest scientists in the world, in my opinion. So Yamanaka actually created these 4 magical proteins, all of which can actually change a normal cell, so like a skin cell, hair cell, that's already differentiated, so it's already what it's going to be for the rest of its life, and they can literally turn back the cellular clock. So it's really reversing the age of the cell, and it's changing the genetic makeup of the cell. So your skin cell kind of gets these new instructions that say, hey, I'm going to be a stem cell. And this can actually help cure a lot of diseases, cancer included, just because your body needs to regenerate itself. It can also a little bit cure aging too, because one of the reasons that you age is because your stem cells run out. And then you don't have enough stem cells to keep regenerating, so eventually you just kind of don't regenerate anymore. And one of those Yamanaka factors that I was talking about is C-Mike. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I think that C-Mike is pretty insane, and here's why. C-Mike can actually, actually a super transcription factor. So transcription factors are what change your DNA into your RNA. They basically, if your DNA is like a cookbook, these super transcription factors are responsible for turning 50% of that into RNA, which is kind of like taking the cookbook and getting all the recipes or all the ingredients and making it into whatever you're making. So this is a picture of it actually doing its job. You can see that DNA-like structure that looks kind of familiar, maybe from biology. And it reads that and it actually spits out the RNA. So this is really useful for a bunch of reasons, but first of all, is that it can kill cancer. C-Mike is so dangerous to cancer cells that cancer literally has to turn it off. Because C-Mike regulates apoptosis. By the way, did you notice that when your cells die, they don't explode? They don't unless that's different. But usually they have a very programmed type of cell death, and that's called apoptosis. And usually that means that they just kind of slowly shrivel away so that all of the organelles that are in there that can actually help you digest, so the little parts of the cell that help it gain all the energy and stuff don't actually harm the rest of your body. So, cancer, because cancer wants to be able to grow with mutations. So, how many of you know Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Yeah? Does anybody remember how the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles got mutated? Yeah? Take a stab at it.
They stepped in some radioactive slime.
Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit over dramatized because it makes good television. But when mutations occur, they actually change the genetic makeup of your cell. So they can actually mess with some of the pairs that kind of tell your cell what to do. And cancer needs mutations that will turn off C-Mike, because C-Mike is dangerous. It's bad for cancer. It tells the cancer to stop, and cancer doesn't want to be told to stop. So they have to actually downregulate, and that means they just basically try to tamper with it so that they can turn it off. So C-Mike is super important for cancer treatment because if we can turn that back on, the off switch turns on, and then the cancer dies. So this is actually really tricky to do because C-Mike is primarily found with DNA, which is in the nucleus of the cell. And a lot of times the cellular membranes aren't going to let a big protein through, so that's kind of an issue. And we've kind of found a little bit of a sneaky way to get around it. It's kind of passive aggressive. We use a protein called BRD4, and it has a very long bromethylene name that I'm not even going to try to pronounce because I'm going to butcher it. So for the sake of this, it's BRD4. It's a protein, and it's basically passive aggressive. So since I'm not actually close enough to poke you, it would be like saying, hey, could you please poke him? So I'm actually technically not doing anything, but I'm adding that poking factor that's going to get it to activate. Does that make sense? So I'm trying to be passive aggressive and activate this C-Mike with another protein because that protein is really cool. And recent studies from Wuhan University, coronavirus, Wuhan, China, have been looking into how to make this actually happen. So how do we get the BRD4 to the C-Mike? And they think that the future of this might actually be in your blood. And that's really exciting because that means that you could actually get an intravenous drip of this BRD4 protein that will go into the blood, and that will go to the cells that have your cancer and they'll kill it. That's incredible. Think about all the people this could affect. I mean, not only the people that have cancer, but all of the people that are affected by cancer. Because when you think about it, someone who has cancer, not only is that one person affected, it's the entire family around that person. So this can literally impact billions with something that you can't even see. Thank you. Switching gears slightly, I'm going to have Milan talk with you guys about cellular agriculture. Hello.
Okay, so I want to start with a game of Never Have I Ever. So you guys know how to play. Put 5 fingers up. Okay. Put a finger down if you have ever eaten bone. Okay. Put a finger down if you've ever eaten pesticides. You guys haven't eaten pesticides? Jeez. Okay. Put a finger down if you've ever eaten carbon monoxide. No? Put a finger down if you've ever eaten sodium nitrate. Okay, put a finger down if you've ever eaten, a burger from fast food, or a burger at all. Okay, if you put your finger down for eating a burger, you lost, because all those things are inside of that. Which is all what you can help with those tests. So, my name is Milan, I'm 13 years old, I go to Levitt Middle School, I am in 7th grade, and I'm an innovator at TKS. I just am very interested in the environment and global warming and everything, and trying to solve that and keep the world from that. And yeah, that's basically what I'm interested in. Okay, so health is not the only thing that is not so pretty about the meat that we eat today. It actually has a lot of things wrong with it, and health is one. So it has all that wacky stuff along with others, but it also has antibiotics. So if you guys ever gotten antibiotics for just in case you're sick, have you ever been prescribed any of that? No? Okay. Well, a lot of people do. Majority of people do get prescribed antibiotics because it just is very quite general to heal you. And it also keeps the animals from disease. So we all know that with cows, if you're trying to make beef, it goes through a process. So first you need to raise the cow and everything. So if you've ever looked up like behind the scenes of that, it's tragic how bad the animals are treated in the environment that they're in. And it's also extremely filthy. So they need antibiotics in their food in order not to get sick and cause foodborne illness in humans. So nitrate is also in processed food. It basically processing food makes it taste good. So if you've noticed, like, it feels like vegetables don't taste as good, certain vegetables don't taste as good as the unhealthy food that is probably processed, and you wouldn't even know it really. But things like bacon, sausage, hot dogs, and salami are very, very processed, and the nitrate in them damages the DNA in your stomach. So a lot of health experts say that you should cut your meat as much as possible, and not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone wants to cut their meat at all, because really the recommended amount is a small steak. Guess how long a small steak is supposed to last you? A week. You're only supposed to have a small steak per week. That's how little red meat is healthy for you. So, since not everyone wants to eat plant-based meats, or if not everyone wants to cut it or become vegetarian, there's alternatives. But in conventional meat, what we're eating now, it's 3% efficient. So imagine I asked you for $100 and you gave it to me for some reason, and I only gave you 3 cents back. I'm really wait. So it's so inefficient, only 3% efficient. So we're putting all of this into it. Like, imagine you had a project and you put like a whole bunch of work into it, and you think this is worth 100% of a grade, and you get a 3%. It's kind of like that mindset. So since developing countries are getting enough money to produce meat, and there's more people on Earth now, the demand for conventional meat is getting higher and higher, and our ability to do it is getting lower and lower. So our ability to do it is getting lower because obviously our resources do not come from a forever source. We're going to run out at some point. And it's so bad because cultured meat, one burger is worth 7,000 liters of water just to make it, that one burger. And that is 10 years of human drinking water. So we're giving 10 years of human drinking water clean drinking water to animals, while we have kids that really have no clean water at all. And it's also worth 100 days of showers in that one burger. And it's not even filled with water or anything anyway. So it also takes up 25% of the entire Earth of meat production. That's how much of the Earth it takes. And obviously the Earth is really big, and a quarter of that is dedicated to these guys. And the last thing that it is pretty bad at is, there's a comment because we're constantly thinking that there's a forever source, but for the third one, we have global warming, and we all know what's wrong with that one. It's causing water levels to rise and natural disasters and everything. And it's caused by too much CO2 and methane in the air, and which is causing the Earth to heat up. And that should be helped with trees. The problem is, we're cutting down those trees. So while we're complaining about the Earth being too hot and all these problems happening, we're kind of cutting off the solution at the same time. So if you're cutting down trees, as you would know from a classic third grade photosynthesis lesson, trees breathe in your carbon dioxide and push out oxygen. But if we're cutting them down, they release all that carbon dioxide, and then you have more carbon dioxide in the air, and all the carbon dioxide we're already putting out that should be filtered by the trees cannot happen anymore. And the more cows that are on the soil, that emits methane. And we're causing deforestation because a quarter of the Earth is dedicated to it, so the more Earth, the more land we need, the more trees cutting down. And also, cows burp methane. So not only when they walk they emit methane, not only do when they live they emit methane, they also burp and they emit methane, which is awful. So not to mention the really bad way the animals are treated. If you ever look up what's behind the scenes of all this, it's really bad, tragic. I don't know if I should say it because it's pretty gory, but it's pretty bad. And how do you make cultured meat? Since our solution to this, cultured meat is the science of taking cells and turning it into meat rather than growing an entire animal just to get some parts of it. And if we want to solve the problems that we have with health and global warming and resources, cultured meat is the answer. So you do this by extracting cells from muscle tissue of animals, and then you separate them. But how do you get these cells? So you can do it via biopsy, which does not hurt the animal, or you can buy it from someone who did it via biopsy, which also doesn't hurt the animal. So we're keeping the animal, and we don't have to mass produce it because from just some cells you can basically feed the entire world. And once you separate those cells from the multipliable ones and the not multipliable ones, you put the multipliable ones into a petri dish and media inside of that petri dish. And media is like the food for the cells, which makes them think that they're at home. And you know how when you're at school and you're at home, you act different? Silence? Okay. When they're at home and their home is inside the body of an animal. So when they feel like they're there, they'll function normally and multiply naturally. But when they are taken out of that and you just throw them in a petri dish, they'll dysfunction because they don't feel like they're living anymore. And they just multiply a lot until they start forming myotubes, which are 0.3 millimeter little tubes, smaller than that, like really small tubes, and those myotubes are then put into a ring, and then they attract to each other and they put on bulk, and then you have a string of muscle tissue. And this process is repeated and grown on scaffolds so that it can form a burger. So now that we know how to make it and what's wrong with regular meat, why is this any better? So it uses 99% less land use. It causes 90% less greenhouse gas emissions. 96% less water use. So instead of 100 showers per burger, it's like 4 showers per burger, which is a great drop. And 60% less energy use. And also, it's really good for your health because instead of having bad fats in the meat that conventional meat has, scientists replace it with good fats, with like omega-3. So, will it be accepted? Would you eat this? Would you eat lab-grown meat? Raise your hand if you eat it. Okay. Okay, raise your hand if you try it, but not eat it all the time. Raise your hand if you eat it all the time. Raise your hand if you just don't want it at all. No one? Everyone wants it a little bit? Okay. So, 2/3 of people actually want to try it. 1/3 of people want to eat it regularly, and another third of people just don't want to worry about it at all. And so I watched a BuzzFeed video on this, and the comments are pretty questionable. Like someone said, what if we grow human meat? It still counts as cannibalism, so we're not going to be doing that one. And some were controversial in their own ways, and some pretty funny to come back on that one. And also, some were serious, saying, I don't want the guilt of this anymore, and I would like to get some regular meat. If it's normal and I get it normal and it tastes the same and everything, I'll eat it for sure. Thank you so much for listening to my
Hello again. My name is Gaby again. I'm 18, Glassford High School senior, all that cool stuff. Today, actually, or this time, I've been doing, the rest of today, I've been talking about bug meat, like and how you can take bug cells and like make steaks and all that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna do something a little bit different with you guys because you're smaller, and I feel like we can do more stuff with you. There's more space. There's a lot of fun things. So in TKS, if you end up joining, every week we have a different mindset. So remember in the beginning when I told you that we're like a human accelerator program, so we want to make better people. Well, if you had to, so what's your name? What's your name?
Ricardo.
Okay. Okay, so if you were to build like a really good person, what are traits that you would give them?
Well, I would give them knowledge.
But like if they were a good person, like not a smart person, but like a good human being.
Generosity.
Generosity. Okay, what would you give them? But like not about smarts, like about as a person. Kindness, right? What's something? What about like gratitude? Like are they grateful for what they have? Yeah. Are they gonna help other people? Are they gonna think about others? Like all those good things, right? So can we all agree that those are traits of good people? Do you think that you guys are all of those things right now? Exactly. Isn't that so weird? Like we know what like a good person is. Like we all are kind of trash, like in our own way, in our own special little ways. And I am too. Don't worry. So what we do in TKS is we acknowledge traits that are really good for people to have, but we also have to practice them. They don't just tell you like be a good person and then like that's it. We actually have a mindset that we practice every single week. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about 4. The first one I'm going to talk about is boss mentality. The second one I'm going to talk about is something else that I forgot. Huh? Oh yeah. So boss mentality, celebrating others, stoicism, and hustling. So first, boss mentality. You guys know it. What's your name? Aiden? Okay, awesome. Aiden. What do you think boss mentality is? Being like a boss. What does a boss mean? A leader, right? What does a leader mean? What does a leader mean?
He helps other people.
Someone who takes charge.
Someone who takes charge. What do you have to do to take charge? What do you need? Huh? You gotta get up. You need confidence, right? You need the ability to get up on a stage and do something cool, right? Who here thinks that they want to be a leader one day? Do you want to be able to like get the stuff that you want? Do stuff that you want? Fight for what you think is right? Do all the cool things? That's a lot of leadership. No matter what job you ever do, Whether you're like a contractor or you're like a president, you need the leadership. It's like a really important thing for not just like bosses, like actual CEOs, but literally any person. Like that's a really good skill to have. So, we're gonna do a little practicing on boss mentality today. So I hope you all brought all of your confidence because I'm gonna be calling a couple of you up. And so if I could get 3 volunteers in the audience, please, or I will pick you randomly. Yeah. Right.
Who just said they wanted leadership? This is your opportunity to practice.
So I need 3 volunteers.
Yeah. Ricardo, yes.
Awesome. Okay. Need one more person. Come up on stage. I need one more person. Okay. Don't worry, we'll have more things to embarrass all of us. Okay. So I'm gonna have each of you. You have 2 seconds to introduce yourself, or you have a couple seconds to introduce yourself to me. So I'm shaking your hand, right? You all right? What kind of handshake is it? Okay. Well, then why are you lifting my hand? Like this? Like this? Or do you want to go like this?
Like this, yeah.
Want a strong handshake, right? You want like kill me, right? But you want like a good handshake. Like it's good to have a good handshake, right? Okay, so good handshake. Introduce me. Introduce me.
Carlos, I was born 2007 and I'm a 7th grader.
Okay, cool. Nice. Hi. Is this a strong handshake? It's a boss handshake.
Yeah.
Introduce me.
Marco, I'm 13 and I'm 7th grade.
Okay, awesome. What about next? Introduce yourself. Okay, awesome. So thank you guys so much. You can sit down now. And then all of you guys do their intro, right? Do you think that a CEO of a company that makes billions of dollars would introduce themselves like that? Okay. Do you think that like any like really cool person would introduce themselves like that, right? But don't you guys want to be cool people? Like it's really cool to be interested, right? So then I came up to you guys. Hi, I'm Gaby. Right now I'm working on creating foods that are gonna one day make everybody able to get really nutritious things and basically save the mental health of like thousands of people who don't get enough nutrients so that their brains can fully develop. Hi, I'm Gaby. Right now I'm actually speaking at South by Southwest in Austin, Texas about the future of food on a panel at one of the largest tech companies in the world. Right? It's kind of interesting. So I'm doing that kind of stuff right now. I've been in TKS for over a month. Before then, I'll do an intro of what I would intro myself like before I went to TKS. That's about it. That's about all I had to say. That's it, right? Do you think a lot of you guys kind of have that kind of right now? But do you think you have the potential to do more? So think about, so everybody close your eyes right now. I'll do this with you. So sit down, close your eyes, kind of vibe for a little bit. And think about the person that you want to be in 10 years. So what do they have? Are they confident? Are they rich? Are they successful? Imagine that. What do they look like? What do they wear? How do they walk? How do they introduce themselves? Right? What are they doing? What is their personality like? The person you want to be in 10, 15 years. Think about that for a second. How would they introduce themselves? Okay, awesome. So do you guys think you have a pretty good idea of like what you want that person to be? Right? Like what do you want to be? You want to be confident, right? You want to be a boss. You want to be confident. You want to say what you think. You want to have poise. You want to demand respect. You want to be successful. So you guys imagine that? So someone comes and introduce themselves right now as the person that they're going to be in the future. And you guys just realize how
demo, but this will be boring if we do it.
Oh, they're not demoing. You guys sit those chairs, homies. Introduce yourself to me as your future self. Is this how your future self is shaped by him? What's your future self shaped by? There you go. Okay. So, introduce yourself. Are you there? Introduce yourself to me as your future self. Who do you want to be? How would they introduce themselves? You don't even have to say anything much though. Hi, I'm Gaby. Is that who your future self is? Say it a little stronger. Hi, my name's Dominic.
Hi, my name is
Hi, my name's Dominic. There you go. Come on, please. Okay. Please.
Hi, my name's Richardson.
I'm Roxy. Hey guys, if you want to be cool people, just act like a cool person already. You don't have to solve global warming to be an interesting person, to be someone that people like, right? One of the most, I'm sure you're all very excited. One of the most important things that you can have as a person is likability. And no, if you're kind of like, I can't say that word. If you're kind of like not nice, then would people want to work with you? If you're mean, do people want to work for you? Will people follow you? If you want to solve global warming and no one likes you, do you think you're going to solve global warming? Exactly. So we kind of have to work with likable people. So the second thing I'm talking about today is celebrating others. One of the best things you can do as a leader is celebrate the people who are leading. If someone's doing something, it is a recognition, right? Jeff Bezos doesn't say that he created, that right now, he runs the entirety of Amazon. He says, these people that work for me, they run the sites, they do all these back-end developers. Those are the people that deserve recognition. If you work for my company, and I take credit for everything my company's doing, but you're the one on the ground who's actually typing the code, who's actually making the marketing, who's actually coming up with campaigns, and I don't say anything, what's that? That kind of sucks, right? So I need two people right now to say something really nice about somebody else in this room.
Hey, Juan, you cute, bro.
So now celebrate somebody. What does somebody deserve recognition for? Maybe someone helped you with some homework. Maybe someone's like,
cool, man.
yeah, maybe someone helped you with homework. Maybe someone gave you lunch. Maybe someone lended you some money. Celebrate somebody right now. What?
This guy's gonna be a comedian.
You're gonna be a comedian? Is there nothing nice to say about anybody else in this entire room?
What about your projects, you guys?
Yeah.
should say?
You guys did a group project. Who came in your project? Your major project was this. So there's nothing nice to say about literally anybody in this entire room? You don't have anything nice to say about anybody in this room? You hate everyone.
Diego, thank you for being my partner.
Thank you for being a good teacher. Awesome. Here we go. What about you? What's your name? Noah? No. Do you have anything nice to say about anybody? She's pretty smart? Yeah, she's smart. We got a smart kid. What about you? Do you have anything nice to say about anyone?
These two are very pretty. They're like,
Thank you, right? So now we celebrate others, right? That's great. So I'm going to bring up my amigos right now. And we're going to do something.
Every day, right? You were talking about something outside the room.
So, do you guys have any questions or anything about TKS or anything like that? And we'll answer them right now. Your boss mentality, right? You guys want to be leaders? Are leaders afraid to ask questions? Are leaders afraid to ask questions? No. Are leaders afraid to ask questions? No. Are leaders afraid to ask questions? No. Should you be afraid to ask questions? No. So, should you be afraid to ask questions? No. So ask a question.
What's your question?
Right now we have a cohort of 50.
There's a total of 80 every year.
There's 80 spots.
Yeah.
Wait, there is, yeah.
Yeah, we don't have like a set number, but like apply. That's like basically what it
So
is.
basically, you just have to in order to get in, if you're worried about being able to get into TKS, you're like this, I might as well not even try. That's wrong because if you think that you're supposed, you gotta be smart to be in TKS. First of all, I have like good grades, but at times I can be really stupid.
Yes.
This finger right here, I got a 2nd-degree burn for the stupidest thing possible, and I'm up here still. So,
And she's still learning how to agriculture and feeding the world.
yes,
Yeah,
so you
right.
don't, there's no, the only expectation is for you to be a good,
You need to be curious.
at least try to be a good person, like, be kind to people, be someone that is good to collaborate with, along with the fact that you're curious and you just want to learn and want to help.
If you want to get better, it's a really good part for that. Any other questions? No questions?
Boss would tell
Not
you
one.
guys.
Yeah.
What do you guys offer in the knowledge society?
What do we offer?
We offer everything.
So
From,
basically, like,
sex-
wait, question. What do you want from the knowledge society?
Something like, I lost my train of thought.
Do you want to like be really successful as a scientist? Do you want to make change? Do you want to start a business?
Not like business, but I want to do like public speaking.
You want to do? Oh yeah, that's great. Yeah, we do all this stuff all the time. We have really high standards.
She's going to a big tech conference in
Yeah.
like a month. So
If you want to be somewhere where you can have peers and be around people that you don't feel inferior to, where you feel as an equal and you feel like if you talk to them, they're gonna listen. As even the adults, our instructors, they're full-grown adults, but they still completely take our opinion. So if you go into TKS and there's just something that you just don't, that you really want to learn about, but you just don't feel like it's there, and you suggest to them like, hey, maybe I should learn about that, they will actually be like, okay, we'll set up a session and we'll teach you that.
Yeah, it's not competitive at all. So if you want to get better at public speaking, everybody in TKS will help you become a public speaker. As long as you're seeking the help.
And we're like, Gabby's 18, I'm 12, they're 13. But we're all equal. Okay, I'm almost 13. But like we're almost all equals. Like our velocity group, Milan and I, we have like the best group, and they're all older than us. There's like 17, 18, like 16. They're all older, but we're all considered as equals, and like everyone helps each other out. And like we just learned about quantum computing, longevity, neural networks, like Gabby was talking about, blockchain, genomics. We learned about a bunch of like breaking edge technology, and we don't need a lot of information coming in. I didn't know what a stem cell was, except that my dad was getting them when I came.
It's not like school. Like there's you may learn about some like basic stuff for school, but if you come into TKS, there's technologies that you've never heard of before.
But like there's technologies you've never heard of before, but that are like sitting right in your pocket right now.
Yeah. And there's no grades either. So like you do nothing to get validation by a grade. You do things for your own sake. And if you want to walk in and do nothing, like have fun.
Go ahead.
Don't go ahead. No one's going. People may say like, how about you push yourself a little bit more? But other than that, you are your own person. They'll still give you the information, but if you don't want to do anything or you want to do the minimum, go ahead. But if you want to 10x, they will put their attention on you and they will help you become someone very important. Do you have a question?
I do. Which one of you were working on the project with the eye drops?
Oh,
Yeah, tell them about that project, because I found that fascinating.
We're working on this project called My Jobs. We came up with the idea at a hackathon that we were doing. They're like eye drops that are stem cell based, and if you use them, then your eyesight, like myopia and nearsightedness, can potentially be solved. We're working with YouSight right now to figure all of the FDA and like everything about it out, and we're probably gonna start testing soon, as well as like just working side by side with them to make it.
So in short, we're making an eye drop that can solve, if you have glasses or anything, you're supposed to be able to drop it in your eye and you won't need glasses anymore. Because they'll be 20 minutes.
And they're like 10, so it's like crazy.
I mean, like,
For fetuses, it's insane. Something that Elle wants to mention is that we're also, have you guys ever heard of Life is Beautiful? Like the music festival, right?
Yeah.
We're working with like the CEO to create like programs where you can get VIP passes and not by paying money, but by like improving your community. So we actually went to their headquarters and got some like really cool merch.
we did.
And that's just like something that we do on a weekend. Like that's something that like these kids, like I won a competition a couple weeks ago at like the biggest tech conference in America. And I was like on the front page of the newspaper and like we did all this cool stuff. But it was kind of like that was good practice. Now I can actually do something interesting. Like that's the mentality that we have in TKS is always growing. Like what can I do to better myself? What can I do to better others? How can I help my friends, like my peers? Like how can I help them? How can they help me? Like it's all about growing, and so you grow and you stand around. Like I was not like outgoing. Like I didn't public speak like that well before. I was doing great, but I sucked. Like I was like straight sixes in a room. But in TKS, you learn a lot and you learn real fast.
Yeah, if you're feeling like, if you see us and you're like, that's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. But you know, when you know that you're growing, and every single thing we do in TKS is for a reason. It's gonna help us in the future, and especially now. And so if you know you're growing and you're actually having fun because it's something that you chose to be interested in, you chose to focus on, it doesn't really feel like work. And if you're feeling like, I can't do this, like, you guys are like brainiacs or anything, first of all, same.
That's how every single one of us felt during this program. Like I'm way too dumb to be here. Like that's literally the only thought like everybody that's in the program had.
That was everybody. And
Because people in their second and their third years, because the program can last up to 3 years.
and they're with you for life, but like the actual every Saturday lessons are for 3 years.
And they're the people that have flown out to IKEA.
Yeah, like this girl named Izzy, she networked her way, so she's likable and she's outgoing and she like talked to enough people, got a lot of no's, but eventually she met like one of the heads of IKEA and like got in contact with them and convinced them to pay for her flight to Sweden, pay for all of the lodging, all of the housing, all the food, and pay her to be a keynote speaker at their conference. And like also there are kids that are in our program that are keynote speakers at like conferences and they get paid $5,000 to $10,000 for a 15-minute speech. So basically what I'm saying is that like we should have gotten paid a lot more than watermelon and chips to be here, but like super fun. Like it's really cool. If you don't think you're like anything enough,
You're there.
you're there. Like you are ready to
You
start
have
to
it
get
inside of you. You absolutely, no doubt you have it inside of you as long as you're willing to work at remotely hard. The rest will come naturally. It's trust the process. Like right now, if you feel like you can't do any of this, that's like the perfect reason to go into TKS.
Yeah. So does anyone else?
Is anybody over at TKS having anything to do with space?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Orion is all into space technology. We have a whole thing on space technology. Some girl like.
You could focus on space.
He has a meeting
Someone's
with
working
a
on
NASA
NASA.
engineer that.
And I've been like trying to communicate recently, but we're trying to get a partnership with Blue Canyon Technology. I don't know if you've heard of the Make in Space program, but they're partnering with NASA. So in 2022 they're gonna launch like this shuttle in space, and I'm trying to get a partnership with TKS to the company that's making the shuttle.
And also right now we have like people like we have people in our thing like talking that like talk to SpaceX and just like work with like you learn like all about that stuff and you make connections so like it'd be easier to get a job in those fields and to like work in that, so that'd be like a perfect like if you're really interested in space technology, this is like the perfect place for you. So do you have any other questions? Anything else you guys are wondering? Do you have any questions about any of us? Like how we were before, how we are now, how we think it's changed us, and anything?
How did you grow your finger?
Okay, so I decided to not be patient and asked my dad to take me to Del Taco and get a churro. I wanted churros now, and I watched a TikTok on how to make churros, and so I followed it, and I was home alone, and I was like, you need to fry churros. So I was boiling oil. And if you've ever boiled oil before, like it does not look hot at all. And so I was trying to test it. I'm testing things. It's like burning. The churros are burning, and everything's going wrong. So I'm like, you know what? I don't like this oil. And so I try and pour it out in the sink. But so while I'm bringing, it's in a pot too. And so while I'm bringing over the entire pot, a whole bunch of oil spills onto my finger, and I got a 2nd-degree burn. And so I kind of just put it down until my finger started running. And so my dad comes in right then, and I tried to put water in it, which made it explode. And then now I have burns like on my eye, and I have like random burns on my face. Like it kind of looks like freckles, which is I have freckles here, so it kind of covers it up. But I do have some burns on my face, and I've had this for about like a month and a week at this point, and so it like bubbled up. It was like really huge and disgusting, and then it popped, and then it dried, and so then the dead skin just now fell off, so now I'm developing a new finger. So you guys have crusty old 12-year-old knuckles. I'm over here with a fresh knuckle skin.
So anyway, you don't have to be that smart to be a teacher. We have to go right now, but thank you guys so much for like a really great audience.
As they're cleaning up, because they have to go back to Zappos. If you guys, as you've been listening to this presentation, thinking, wow, this is something I might want to be involved in or might want to do or try, you can. All you have to do is apply. On our school website, under news and announcements, there's an article talking about the Knowledge Society. If you click on that link, there's another link in there that will show you how to apply, okay? It'll also talk about a fee. Do not let the fee worry you, still apply, okay? Because if you get in, they will help you with that, okay? So please do not let the fee deter you from applying if you feel like this is something that you really want to do or pursue or learn more about, okay?
They have like up to 80% financial aid.
Yeah, you can get a lot.
I'm pretty sure all of them.
That's how a lot of us even got into this.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if you guys have heard a lot of things that you really probably interesting and want to learn more about, please go on our school website, talk to your parents about it, okay?
Cool to see